I'd like to call this meeting to order. Will the clerk please read the statement?
This is a meeting of the Township Council for Monday, March 11, 2019. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public and the press on January 3rd, 2019, and was posted on the bulletin board.
Roll call.
Councilmember Ooms?
Here.
Ferrari?
Here.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Here.
Councilmember Allberger?
Here.
Council President Murphy?
Here. Please rise to salute the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I would actually like to read a proclamation for Councilmember Dan Kadish. Carol, if you would mind. Whereas Councilman Dan Kadish and his family moved to Vernon in the 1940s to become dairy farmers, and whereas Councilman Kadish, even after receiving his Master's of Fine Arts degree at Yale and serving as a college instructor for 20 years, never forgot his humble beginnings, and whereas Councilman Kadish returned to Vernon to serve the public and raise cattle at Price's Switch Farm, and whereas choosing to enter public service to enrich one's community requires a person with special qualities and a commitment to promote the interests of others over his own. And whereas Councilman Dan Kadish possessed those qualities needed for a strong leader and advocate for the community, serving on various boards and commissions, as well as the Vernon Township Council from 1995 to 1999, and again from 2011 until his untimely passing. Whereas the lessons we have learned from Councilman Kadish and his steadfast resolve to serve the community he loved will not be forgotten. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Mayor and Council of the Township of Vernon that March 2019 be proclaimed as Dan Kadish Month. Now, may I have a motion to open to public comment?
Motion.
May I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there anyone from the public that would like to step forward and have any comments on agenda items? Please step forward.
Not sure if it's on the agenda item, but I saw something in regards to the vacant and abandoned, but it was a different number. It was 19, but I'm tonight to talk about 18, 14, or ordinance number 1814, but I don't want to crosstalk the...
Will that, what was 1814? Was it the vacant property ordinance?
Yes.
Okay, well, we'll have a public session again, yes, and it'll be shortly.
Okay.
Seeing no one from the public, may I have a motion to close?
Motion.
May I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next, we have our minutes. May I have a motion to adopt the following minutes? The special meeting minutes from February 15th, 2019.
Motion.
May I have a second? Okay. Roll call?
Councilmember Ooms? Yes. Councilmember Ferrari?
You abstain.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Yes.
Councilmember Allberger?
Yes.
Council President Murphy?
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt minutes with extension noted.
Thanks. Next up, we have, just for discussion, a salary ordinance. And I wanted to have our municipal attorney address some of the items in the ordinance that we currently have with regard to when this ordinance was adopted last year. Just wanted to make sure that the wording in it was sufficient, that any other ordinances that were in place from any prior years, if they contained any positions, could have been an ordinance from 2015 that maybe had a position in it that's no longer here, would that position be still active, I guess? Like if it says it's repealing anything that's inconsistent. So if we had...
Human Resources Manager.
Thank you. If we had Human Resources Manager in an ordinance, and we no longer have it, and it's not in our township code, would that salary in an ordinance from back then still be considered one that could be brought up without the council voting on it and putting it in a new ordinance?
Saying because we didn't formally eliminate it by vote?
Yes.
So if we didn't formally eliminate a position by vote, does it still exist?
Yes.
That's what you're asking?
Yes.
Okay.
And I just want to know that the wording that's in our ordinance today, is that sufficient for repealing? It does say about repealing any other ordinances that are inconsistent, but would anyone that we brought forward, let's say in 2018, repeal anything prior to that, regardless of what it was? Or would the wording have to be specific?
Well, to the extent a position hasn't been formally eliminated, I mean, arguably, depending on the position, it would still be in existence. You know, as far as, you know, the language in your ordinances, to the extent there's an inconsistency in the new ordinance, then that will take precedence over a prior ordinance.
So if we had a human resource manager in 2015, and the position's not filled now, and a new ordinance came into effect?
Well, under those facts, you know, I mean, technically the position is vacant, so, I mean, I would revise it to add that position again.
Well, I'm not looking to add it. I'm just saying is, let's say it's not added. Could administration create that position because it was in an old ordinance?
To the extent there's nothing repealing that.
Okay, so it would have to be repealed. So if we were, so any positions, if there were any positions, and this is no direct question on anything, it's just a matter of if there was a position and it's no longer filled, but it existed in an older ordinance, we would have to repeal it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be a good practice
cleaner-
from a position control standpoint.
Okay, and what about if it did not appear in our township code?
In township code, I mean, again, that may have some civil service implications, you know. So that may have some civil service implications. So that's something we need to look at. If it's not civil service, then, you know, under those circumstances, it would probably be best to go back and have something more formal.
Okay. That answers one of the questions that I really have. Any?
Just clarify. Position no longer exists, we need to eliminate it by resolution.
Ordinance.
Yeah, I mean, it would be cleaner to take formal action.
I'm here.
I'm sorry, I'm a little under the weather. It would be cleaner to take formal action, yeah.
Okay. Do you have any questions on any? No? Okay. All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Resolution 1985, authorizing execution of a contract with Minerals Hotel for the Vernon Township Senior Luncheon to be held on April 26, 2019. This approves the contract for the senior luncheon. Resolution 1986, emergency temporary appropriations. This provides for funds for recycling and road repair maintenance. Resolution 1987, resolution authorizing a memorandum of agreement with the Sussex County Prosecutor's Office to assign personnel to assist with Operation Helping Hand and to receive grants. This authorizes the receipt of grant funds through Operation Helping Hand for police overtime. Resolution 1988, resolution of the Township Council of the Township of Vernon authorizing the award of financial services software services for through the competitive contract process, CC 2-2019. May I have a motion to adopt resolutions 1985 through 1988?
Motion.
I have a first and a second. Roll call?
Councilmember Holmes?
Yes.
Councilmember Ferrari?
Yes.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Yes.
Councilmember Allberger?
Yes.
Council President Murphy?
Yes.
Motion carries to
We have an introduction, first reading of proposed ordinance 1905, an ordinance of the Township of Vernon, County of Sussex, State of New Jersey, amending and supplementing Chapter 89 of the Code of the Township of Vernon regarding bereavement leave for non-union employees. As the title suggests, this establishes bereavement time for non-union employees. May I have a motion to introduce ordinance 1905 with a public hearing to be held March 25th, 2019?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. How many days?
5.
And this, and if
Not in
you
this
could,
at all?
Excuse me?
Not in, doesn't list it here, does it?
All of the unions currently have 5 days.
and it's for immediate family members, it's not just.
5, yes, I'm sorry, 5 days for immediate family members.
Okay, is 5 written into the ordinance here?
Yes. Should be, isn't it?
Should be 5?
Just as it says that they'll be afforded the same amount of time
But I don't
as
see
union
anything that
employees.
says the amount of days.
Sorry. It refers to what the union employees get, and that they all get 5.
Okay, should we put that in here so it's very clear?
There's the
and
attorney.
transparent?
I think it was.
I mean, it's a fine 5.
I mean, it's pretty much the same result.
It will be in the revised handbook, which will be coming shortly.
Okay.
So it's fine the way it is. Any other questions? Roll call?
Councilmember Holmes?
Yes?
Councilmember Ferrari?
Yes.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Yes.
Councilmember Allberger?
Yes.
Council President Murphy?
Yes.
Motion carries to introduce ordinance 1905 at a public hearing on March 25th, 2019.
Next, we have ordinance 1906, ordinance of the Township of Vernon, County of Sussex, State of New Jersey, amending and supplementing Chapter 130 of the Code of the Township of Vernon regarding vacant and abandoned property fees. This amends the registration process if someone later occupies a vacant home. May I have a motion to introduce ordinance 1906 with a public hearing to be held March 25th, 2019?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Roll call?
Councilmember Holmes?
Yes?
Councilmember Ferrari?
Yes.
Yes.
Councilmember Allberger?
Yes.
Council President Murphy?
Yes.
Motion carries to introduce ordinance 1906 with a public hearing on March 25th.
Okay, we're on to our second session of public comments. May I have a motion to open to public?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there anyone from the public that wishes to address any item not on the agenda or on the agenda? Please come forward.
My name is Ron Longstaff. I'm Scott Mooney.
Ron
owners of-
Longstaff, you said?
Yes. And we recently purchased 144 Coon Den up here in Vernon, and we were sent a notice about vacant and abandoned property
Yes.
registration, but we don't feel that we are in violation, that this really does not pertain to us.
And that, what you could do is speak to the zoning, did you call the zoning officer?
We went to the zoning officer, we had our lawyer draft up a
We
letter,
were suggested to come here
suggested to come
and
here.
to
speak
obtain a
you.
lawyer if we had a problem.
Who suggested that?
Allison Emilius.
Not sure of her last name.
I'm not sure if that's her last name. That's what I knew her as back in school, but Al's.
Okay.
And also Mr. Burns, I talked to him first on the phone. We were unsettled about it, so we went in person and spoke with Allison.
Well,
She suggested that we come here and obtain a lawyer or something, so.
So we've already sent a legal notice back to them that this doesn't apply to us, but they're still saying that it does. But we'd just like it maybe defined as to what we're in violation of, because it lists, I guess, about 15 items here, only one of which would pertain to us. And it says right up here, such but is limited to the evidence of existing of 2 or more of the following conditions. And there are not 2 or more conditions that are on here that pertain to us, so.
well, I can just tell you that this has been addressed at the zoning office, not here.
Yeah, well, they kind
Have
of
you, are you,
directed us
excuse me,
here.
excuse me, are you familiar with this? I'm just
I am.
asking.
I spoke with their attorney last week.
Okay.
And he explained what their objections were, and he said he had advised them not to fill out the paperwork to submit their home or the house that they have as requested by the township. And I told him that we went back and forth on it as to what your reasons were, and I had spoken to the zoning officer, and there were several reasons originally why they should have done it. I mean, according to what the zoning officer told me, I don't know whether you have running water now, but when they first sent you the notice, you did not.
Not true.
Not true. Okay.
Not true.
All right. Well, and there were, several other things. The bottom line is we are addressing this. We introduced the ordinance tonight for a way to amend the way it is currently reads.
Excuse me, when did you buy the house? When did you close?
Around, it was either Labor Day, say.
Okay.
Might have been August or beginning of September.
Okay.
And this property was formerly on the abandoned homes list, right?
It was foreclosed upon. It was bank-owned when we bought it.
Correct.
So.
And at the time you bought it, it was divulged to you that it had been registered with the township as a vacant home?
No, no.
We, what was brought to our attention to obtain an electrical permit, we had to close out an electrical permit that the bank had to obtain a CO, so we followed through with that. And then do a kitchen and bath, primarily upgrade, we were able to get our electrical permit.
Which is all permitted, and we've had services on since.
We don't doubt that you have permits,
Right.
I believe that 100%, but that's not the way the ordinance reads. So, I mean, as I explained to your attorney, I mean, we can differ on this, and, if you choose not to, then you'll likely be issued a summons where you'd have to come to court, and then you could have the judge, explain to him why you haven't, and he would be the ultimate decision maker on something like that.
And depending on it, like I said, we're making an adjustment to the ordinance, so if the property is sold within a certain amount of time, but I would imagine that if you went to see Allison LaRocca, the zoning officer, she would have
Had an intent, I mean, we've asked, are we selling it? We have had an intent to sell. We've also bought a property where we rented it out. Each and every one, we talk about using it and living in it. It's my 4th property. I lived in Highland Lakes. I enjoy the community. I joke around, say I'm going to go for my $1,200 swim. I go for another kayak ride. I guess you could split that up.
Yeah.
Really enjoy.
I mean, the whole
enjoy it
intent,
for
the whole
pri-
intent
you
of
know,
this
not a
is
priority.
really to just, have the homes occupied and not be abandoned. So, but like I said, I would, we've introduced this, so I could only just recommend is,
I explained to their attorney what was going to be introduced. He said that was not acceptable either.
okay.
So I said, well, I guess that leaves us with, unfortunately, would have to come to court on something
Yeah.
like that.
Because I have real issue with that. I mean, here, we buy the house, we own it outright, taxes are current, we're current on our lake dues. Whether I ever live in that house or not, I own other homes I've never stepped foot in. I don't live in. I just don't understand what gives you the right to tell me I have to live in that house.
Well, you don't have to live in it.
Or it has to be occupied. Whatever I choose to do with my house, I own that house. Taxes are current. bills are paid. What gives you the right to tell me?
It was on the,
that?
it was on,
Where-
it was
or
on the
someone
list not
else
being
has to-
occupied. Like I said, the
Lawn is
administrator
maintained,
spoke to your
driveway
attorney.
maintained. I mean, we take good care of the properties we own.
No, the administrator spoke to your attorney, and like I said, I mean, if it's something that you can go back and address with the zoning officer, but it's,
We
What
really
about
don't
our
get
reply
anywhere
of the
there.
water? We have water. You know, you were told not, but
Yeah, but, and again, that might have been a couple weeks back. I don't know how recently you got the water.
it was last Thursday or Friday.
Well,
but
that's
we-
why I'm pointing out that notice was sent to you prior to that. That was one of the reasons that they...
That's when we received it, on a Thursday, it was Friday. Our story is the same, we've had water.
We're going to have to agree to disagree on this one, and unfortunately have to,
Take it to
explain
the judge.
take it to the judge, yes.
What exactly are they saying that you're not compliant with, though?
That's what we'd like to know.
We'd like to know.
Because on here, it lists overgrown, neglected vegetation, which is not. We cut our grass and everything's trimmed back. We have plans on planting more landscaping. The accumulation of newspapers, circulars, flyers, or mail on the property, there's none. Disconnected gas, electric, water service to the property has always been on. We can show you bills for that. Accumulation of hazardous, noxious, or unhealthy substances or materials on the property, which are none. The accumulation of junk, litter, trash, or debris on the property, which there are none. The absence of window treatments such as blinds, curtains, or shutters. There's blinds on all the windows. Absence of furnishings. There are no furnishings in the house. The house was uninhabitable when we bought it. The stench was so bad we wouldn't have moved furniture in. It's taken us a while to renovate it. Carpet's going in Thursday, so furnishings could be moved in. Statement of neighbors, associate, management, delivery persons, or government employees indicating that the resident is vacant and abandoned. There's no broken windows. This refers to broken windows. Doors are all locked, in good working order. There's no risk to health, safety, or the welfare of the public. Uncorrected violations. We're in compliance with everything that the building department has asked of us. So there's no mortgage on the property.
like I said, but it's not something we can address, Sandy, here. No, I'm just letting you know that it's,
But this is something that you all passed.
yeah, it is, but it's at the zoning, now it's in zoning.
So you created
And
it,
you,
now you're going to pass
it's
it
at
off to
zoning, it's at zoning, and the administrator spoke to your attorney. So,
By your own admission, this house was uninhabitable when you bought it.
It was uninhabitable.
Right, so that's
But we
why
had
it
no
fell into
idea
this
that this
into this
ordinance had
category.
been passed, or that the bank had paid some type of fee. That was, we had no information on that whatsoever. So
Which they should have divulged, yes.
they should have.
Yeah,
They should
I
have.
agree.
yeah, because the bank paid, did the bank?
I believe
pay?
so.
The bank, so the bank was aware of it, and they really had, they should have been
But we were
passing.
unaware of it.
Right, but they should have been passing that information along to
Didn't
you.
get passed on, so. But I just think that whatever this ordinance is that you've created here, we're really not in violation of two or more things.
Well, as you remediate, you probably have knocked off a few by your own admission. You got water back last week, right?
No,
So-
we've had water all
the times
along.
since we bought it, since
Okay.
we
Work
had power
on it,
turned
too.
on,
Right. Okay.
you know? As soon as we had power turned back onto the building, we had water, so.
Okay, well, at this juncture, as the city administrator said, you have remedies to avail yourself of. The township's ordinance, just to let you know, is based on state statute. So, if you take issue with it, like I said, pursue the available remedies like the city administrator said.
Is there a list of abandoned properties that we have access to? Of all the properties that have been deemed?
I think you can
vacant
file
and
over for
abandoned?
that, correct?
Yeah. You can make an Oprah request for that.
We can make a request for that at zoning or?
No, you have to file an Oprah request with the clerk.
Okay, all right. All right. I guess that's it then.
When would we do that?
Have our lawyer?
So as early as tomorrow,
Yeah.
or he can actually, you can
You don't
send
need
it
to
and you
have
don't
your
have to
lawyer
actually
do that.
come here personally. You could
You don't
actually
need
do
to
it
have
online.
you don't need to pay your attorney to do that.
No, you could do it yourself, save some money.
Yeah,
Don't tell him I said that.
thanks.
All right, well, thank you for your time.
All right, thank you.
I have one quick thing. Jackie Espinoza from Jersey Central Power and Light. We'll be trimming some trees come May out of the Vernon substation. So it's routine maintenance that we do to help provide reliable electricity. So Nelson Tree Service will be out, and we've used them for many years. They'll come back to the town 2 weeks prior just to give more notice, and I work with the DPW. But that's it, just routine maintenance that we always do. So you'll see Nelson out there. And thank you to the police department for assisting with us. I think it was 2 weeks ago. We had an outage, and we had to have the road closed for part of Route 94 for a little bit of time, but they were able to work with us and help out with providing traffic safety. So thank you for that as well.
You make sure you pass on to, who's doing the trimming for you again? Nelson. That they will contact the police and let them know where they're going to be working.
Yeah, they always come in about 2 weeks prior, so should they give them a kind of a plan? Is that something
I think that would probably be helpful.
Okay, we can do that. I'll make sure that the foreman stops in and lets
Great.
them know.
Thank
okay?
you.
All right, that's
Thank you.
all. Thank you.
Thanks.
Is there anyone else from the public that have any comments? Please step forward.
Good evening, Sally Rinker, Vernon. Good evening, Mr. Carreri. I want to thank you for your willingness to serve the residents and taxpayers of Vernon, and I congratulate you and wish you well in your new position. I, too, submitted a formal letter to be considered for the vacant seat. Unfortunately, vacated by Councilman Dan Kadish and his untimely passing. When Dan came back to serve on the council the second time, he told me he ran to work with me because we shared a common belief that government can be good. When I submitted my letter, I did not expect to prevail. I was testing the process and it failed. Council President Murphy would never welcome an experienced and knowledgeable person that she could not control. I don't know you, Mr. Carreri, but I sure hope she's not successful at controlling your votes. She will badger, coerce, manipulate, and tailor information to convince you to see things her way. In fact, it was Dan Kadish's assessment and opinion of Miss Murphy and her style that he said caused him to not support her bid for mayor if she were to run this November, as she is narrow-minded, a micromanager, and disrespects all other opinions. Dan was so concerned that he told me he was considering running for mayor, and I believe he would have won had he had the chance. As president of the Vernon Taxpayers Association, a nonpartisan group that stands for transparency, fiscal responsibility, and good government, I can honestly say I have no issue with you, Mr. Carreri, at this time. Time will tell what you stand for and how effective you are. At issue is the process by which you were appointed, unfortunately. As former mayor of Vernon, I refused to swear in a candidate for a vacated seat because the legal process was subverted. Harry might recall that, he was there. I believe in following fair and democratic process, especially when there are legal guidelines to be followed. I prefer to believe you are unaware of what and how took place and what did not take place to fill Dan's vacated seat. My long association with Dan makes me know he would have been adamant about filling the seat in a legal and democratic process. Your appointment did not do that. When we worked to change our form of government back in 2010, it was the age-old process of hand-picking council members that was one of the driving forces for the change. We believed in checks and balances, and we know that debate from diversity brings the best decisions forward. So when Council President Murphy refers to your appointment, insinuating it had Dan Kadish's blessing, that's one thing, and that's fine. But to go against Dan's beliefs of operating transparently and democratically and legally to seat you is something he would have never stood for, frankly. Ms. Murphy's scheming tactics are an affront and disrespectful to Dan's memory. Number one, there should have been a public notice call for candidates, as that is what is a fair and democratic and transparent process. It shouldn't be exclusive to those who may know about sending in a formal letter. That's a very few number of the population out here, I'm sure. Number two, put aside that the other candidate was myself, that's fine. Because you were not the only candidate, there should not have been a resolution drafted with your name on it and only your name. Who decided that, and how was that decided? Mr. Carreri, please allow me to explain the implications. First of all, legislative decisions, are to be debated and voted on in public. That's Government 101. We could all agree on that, right? Who picked your name? What council members were included in the discussion? Where and when was the vote to select you? That was supposed to happen here, as has been done many times in the past over the years. That's how a vacated seat, it's discussed and done right here. Not in the clerk's office and just thrown on the agenda. I'm sure Ms. Murphy's trying to be ready with some feeble excuse for it,
Actually,
but there is no feeble excuse for it.
You can continue,
okay?
but you can address the council.
If you don't understand, excuse me, it's my time now.
You can address the council.
Please do not
point out one member.
And how to speak.
I will.
If you don't, good for you. Good luck. If you don't understand how this violates the state statutes on the Open Public Meetings Act, let me be clear. The two candidates or more, if there are more, had a right to council discussion and a vote to sift through who ultimately gets the decision. No one council member makes a decision without a vote of the entire governing body, and I hope you are aware of that as you now sit there. Period, end of story. That's the way the process works. This process by which you were decided by an illegal vote behind closed doors is a clear violation of the Open Public Meetings Act. It is despicable that Murphy used the good name of the Kadishes to think she was entitled to a pass on following the law. And I'm sorry that it involved you, Mr. Carreri. I'm sure you are an absolute innocent participant in this. You may say, but there is an attorney here. How does that happen if not correct? You will find that oftentimes attorneys who are beholden to those who appointed them stretch, ignore, misinterpret, and sometimes even contradict the law to keep their bread buttered. It is up to you to decipher that.
Point of order.
Not easy as a layperson
Ms. Rinker,
evaluating a lawyer,
point of order,
but that is what you must do. Those who are comfortable bending and subverting the rules and laws will drag you down with them if you let them. Some politicians are so driven by self-motivation, they no longer abide by their oaths of office, and yes, even here in Vernon. I apologize to you for them, that your appointment today is clouded by a process that was not done fairly or legally. I tell you this today, as you begin your tenure with anticipation, that sheep come in wolf's clothing, and smiles you see today can turn to backstabs tomorrow if you fail to follow those who put you in a position to be beholden to them. I know little about you. I have not seen you involved in the township nor at meetings. Does this worry me? Yes, it does. Will I judge you today? No, I will not. Since serving public office, I have stayed involved, paid attention, attended meetings, searched out my own information, and when necessary, I speak. I defend, I promote, and I will not sit down or go away. Mr. Carreri, look to your right and discover a new friend, Councilwoman Ohms. Ms. Ohms has remained a stalwart defender of good government. She's a critical thinker, a fair, honest, and independent person who you will find an ally if you too are here for the same reasons. And I hope you are. I hope you will be accessible to those you serve and not isolate yourself from the public, as has been done by other council members. Research your own information. Become familiar with the Faulkner Act and our form of government. Follow it, even when it renders you unpopular. Thank you, and I do look forward to your council comments.
I just want to say for the record, the new council person's appointment was consistent with state statute and legal, number 1, and number 2.
Excuse me.
Ms. Rinker, just please be guided accordingly. Making defamatory statements can have consequences.
I can't hear a word you're saying, sorry.
Okay, that sounds like a personal issue, but there's nothing more to discuss.
Is there anyone else from the public that have any comments they'd like to step forward? Please do.
So, quick question, Scott Geisel's Barry Lakes thing. Does, Mr. Carreri, nice to meet you. Does the appointment for Mr. Kadish's, is it for the balance of Mr. Kadish's term, or is it?
Till December 31st.
How does that work exactly?
Till December 31st of this year.
Okay, and I don't know how the process works. So does the council, Ms. Rinker brought up some points also too, so the council does have the authority to appoint an interim
Yes.
appointee to the vacant position, or?
Correct.
Okay, so the balance of the term. Okay, I just wanted to find out.
No
Thank you.
problem.
Is there anyone else from the public that have any questions or have any comments? Please step forward. No. Seeing no one, may I have a motion to close?
Motion.
May I have a second? I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next, we have our mayor's report. Mayor?
Yeah, I would just like to congratulate Mr. Patrick. Welcome aboard. I look forward to working with you, and the best. And the door is open to you anytime you need it. Thank you for volunteering.
Thank you. We move on to council comments. Councilmember Ohms?
I just want to clarify some dates. We're coming back with the budget the 20th?
At 5 p.m.
5 p.m.
Any other dates?
No, just want to clarify that.
Anything else?
And that, you think we can do that in 2 hours?
Well, that's all we have. I mean, it's either that or not have it, so.
No, we need to have it, but because we have to be someplace else.
Well, the council.
We can get everything done in 2 hours, I'm just asking.
Well, council members should come prepared with a list of recommendations that they may have for administration regarding the budget. That should speed things along. I think today's meeting, we were here from, probably working on that from 1:30 to almost 4:30. So we spent 3 hours going through line by line, pretty much everything in the budget, so we should have a good idea. We should have a good idea that there's not too much to cut as it stands, but we still have to make some recommendations. So, I mean, we could have made, like I said, I mean, giving on people working, because I think that was the earliest you could come on that day, was it? So, I mean, I'm available earlier, but like I said, it's, if people are working, it's hard to have them come earlier than 5 p.m. sometimes, so. Is there anything else? Councilmember Orberger?
No. No comment.
No comment? Councilmember Carreri, did you have any comments you'd like to make?
I just wanted to say what an honor it is to sit here. I've only been a council member for about 7 hours. I know Councilman Kadish left some really big shoes to fill, and I'm not even trying to fill them. I'm really just interested in serving the public the best that I can, and thank you for the warm welcome.
Thank you.
It's going to get warmer.
Thank you.
And I would just like to, again, welcome you here and just reiterate that the process was open. The original article stated that there would be a process. We had people call. I had people call. They asked about the process. There was a posting online. As a matter of fact, for today's public meeting, there was another article in the paper. It did state that's who was on the resolution. Our municipal attorney drafted it that way. We had, as a matter of fact, 2 oaths of office, one with Mr. Carreri's name on it and one with not, just in case there was a change that was going to be made. Before we voted, I did ask if council had any comments. No council members had any comments. Nothing was done in a dark back room. It was out in public, and Councilmember Kadish, the words of Carol Kadish were, Councilman, that her husband was looking down and smiling right now with Patrick's appointment. And he's, in fact, somebody that Councilmember Kadish has been grooming to replace him in his seat. Councilmember Kadish made it very clear he was turning 80 in May, and he was not running for any seat, including the mayor's seat. As much as he would have liked to in the past, it just was not in his cards. He will be missed, and like I said, but we move on. Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
None.